Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the July 21st, 2020 edition of Talk About It Tuesday. Today, we're going to talk about how to complete a sales and use tax return. As most everybody knows, sales and use tax return time is coming up very quickly. Matter of fact, mine is due this week. Every state has a different due date as well as a different filing period and a tax form. Oh, yay. So while I can't get specific as to what information you need to complete the sales and use tax return for your state, I can give you a general idea of what information you do need to have. And I will show you how to complete the sales and use tax return for my own home state here in Vermont. So without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen and get started with this. So here we go. This is my sales tax liability report out of my QuickBooks desktop bookkeeping software. It shows you that I have total sales of $3,525 for the quarter that runs April through June of 2020. And over here on the very left, you will see different sales tax items that I have. Now, this is because every state is going to be different, so you're going to have to do the research. But there are going to be certain things that you sell that are taxable, and you have to charge and collect sales tax on in your home state. There are going to be certain things that you sell that are not taxable. Here in Vermont, we have different cities where there is a local tax for product that is shipped into specific towns. So here in Vermont, anything that I sell for clothing, for finished items in clothing, is tax exempt, meaning I do not have to collect sales tax. But everything else that I sell, amigurumi, dishcloths, anything that you cannot wear, I have to charge and collect sales tax on. So, and then of course there's, let's say you sell on Etsy, okay? Etsy is going to collect and remit the sales tax for you, but you still need to track how much that is, because you don't want to include that in your taxable sales on your home state. Are you confused yet? Yeah, I bet. So, sales tax is very complicated. So this is my Vermont sales and use tax return. This is the form that I would fill out in order to prepare to go online and actually fill out the form and remit my money. And if you notice, first thing it asks me for is total sales. Then it asks for my non-taxable sales. And then I have to calculate my 6%. When I take total sales minus non-taxable sales, then I get the amount that is subject to sales tax. Then that amount is multiplied by 6%. If I have use tax, which is supplies that I purchase where I don't pay sales tax if I purchase them from out of state. And if that item is subject to sales tax here in Vermont, I would have to pay use tax on that amount of money. So to give you a prime example, New Hampshire, which is about, a 35-minute ride from my house, has no sales tax. Every once in a while, I go into New Hampshire and I stop at Staples because there's no Staples around here where I live. And I buy office supplies. Say I buy paper and toner for my printer. Those items would be taxable if I bought them here in Vermont. But because New Hampshire has no sales tax, I owe the use tax on the total of my purchases in New Hampshire. Yeah, fun. And then, of course, we have our local options tax. Now, these are those towns where there is that extra 1% local option tax for anything that I deliver to or send to any of these towns. So let's start looking at what my sales tax liability report shows me from QuickBooks. So I have total sales of $3,525. This is confirmed when I look at my P&L for that same quarter, total of $3,525. So over here in my sales and use tax, in my total sales, I'm going to put in, no, it's not, sorry, this is a fillable PDF, but I guess because I'm sharing my screen, I can't fill it out. So luckily, I did fill out a copy. So in total sales, I want to put in $3,525. Now I want to look at my non-taxable sales. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look, and here under non-taxable sales, I have a total of $2,000. So I'm going to pop back over here, and in non-taxable sales, I'm going to put in the $2,000. Then you do some simple math. You take your total sales minus your non-taxable sales, and that gives you $1,525 in taxable sales. And sales tax on that at 6% is $91.50. Now let's go looking at use tax. If I go to my P&L, I have a special account in my chart of accounts under office supplies, indicating that no sales tax was paid on the total amount of these purchases. So I have $125 that I owe use tax on. So you simply take the 125, you multiply it by 6%, $7.50 in use tax that I owe. With me so far? Okay, perfect. So now I have local options tax. Again, coming back into my sales tax liability, I have $500 worth of sales in Burlington that I need to multiply by 1%. And I have $750 worth of sales to Colchester that I need to multiply by 1%. And you can see that QuickBooks already does the math for me, okay? So I take this information from here and I pop it into the lower half of this form. Here's the sales tax that I owe for Burlington, that 1%. Here's the sales tax that I owe for Colchester at $750. The form automatically populates that I owe $12.50 in total for my local options tax, which gives me a total tax that I owe the state of Vermont of $111.50. So when I go online, I want to take all the information off this form and I want to put it into their system. And then I gear up a automatic withdrawal from my checking account for $111.50. And poof, we're done. So sales tax, while it really can be complicated, can be made easier when you use software. Now, keeping in mind all of these same numbers, I want to look at, and I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to show you something else. Now, the something else is I'm going to show you a popular Excel-based hi, Novella. Sorry. I have a 17-inch laptop, and that was full screen. I did notice that when I was checking on my iPad, that it did look pretty small. Are you watching this full screen? That might be able to help. I'm not quite sure what else I can do. It might be your laptop and it might be the resolution. There's tons of things that could be going on with it. Okay. I don't know. Okay. I'll see if I can make the next thing that I'm going to show you a little bit bigger. So I want to show you a very popular spreadsheet that I find a lot of handmade business owners use. And I want to show you some problems with using Excel. And let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay. I apologize, my hands are pretty shaky today. Yeah, when I try and make this bigger, okay, hold on. Let me see if I stop sharing and then I come in and change this. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. This is one of the problems of using a spreadsheet that is designed by somebody else, and they lock the formatting in a spreadsheet. Here I am trying to make it bigger so you guys can see, and what happens is the numbers are all coming up into just hashtags, and I can't resize the columns, even though I did try and make this bigger. So I'm going to have to put it back down to, okay, let's see, 110% works good. 120 makes it go away. Okay, sorry, this is the best I can do. So let's look at those same numbers. This is called a revenue tracker. And if I start plugging in all of my numbers, you're going to see something very, very scary. For one, this spreadsheet adds in to revenue your sales tax that you collect. Sales tax is not your money. It does not belong included in your revenue. Okay. Now, to show you what I mean, watch this column for June. I'm going to, right now it says I have total revenue of $1844.15. I'm going to take out the $1765 in sales tax collected. It reduces it. It reduces the revenue. As soon as I put that 1765 back in there, it increases my revenue. This is absolutely positively not correct. If you remember from my example, my revenue for the quarter is $3,525, not $3,646.65. This is where downloading a spreadsheet that somebody has put in all the formulas and blah, 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 really can create havoc. And while the lady who designs this really is super smart, she really messed up on this spreadsheet. And because she has locked the cells and you can't edit them, it's overstating your revenue by money that is not yours. So this is really an issue with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets also don't tell you how much is taxable and how much is non-taxable. It doesn't provide you with any sort of way to calculate how much you sold. I would have sold that was subject to local tax in Burlington or Colchester. So spreadsheets, while they're okay for some things, is not anything that I would recommend using for bookkeeping, because you have all of these different things that you have to prepare from your bookkeeping records, whether it's a sales and use tax return or whether it's the information you provide to your CPA at the end of the year. There's all these things. So in order to work with this spreadsheet, and determine your sales tax liability, you would have to take the individual sales totals from each of these different categories that she has. So here's my $1,000, here's my 25. That gives me that total of 3,525. Okay, so I would have to, if I were using this, I could not rely on this total revenue number because it's incorrect. And I would have to go in and I would have to manually add up all the sales amounts in these different categories. And there's like, there's a bunch of them. Okay. There's a whole bunch of things. So be very, very careful about spreadsheets that you download from the internet. Remember that sales tax money is not your income. My income or revenue for this quarter, based on just the things that I sold in my business, not including any commissions, no affiliate program commissions, none of that, no ad revenue. Sales and use tax is just the amount of money that you make from what your primary business is all about. So here it would be, I'm a handmade business owner. I sell finished handmade items. So my revenue for sales tax purposes is simply the amount of money that I generated by selling my finished items, which was $3,525, not $3,646.65. So you've got to be really careful. And there's going to be a lot of extra math involved unless you create this extremely complicated spreadsheet tracking system. Now, this only covers, correct, Novella, finished items and patterns if you do both. Now, let's say I were a designer. I'm going to quit sharing my screen because it's kind of making me a little dizzy here. Okay. Let's say in addition to selling finished items, I was also a pattern designer. Okay. Here in Vermont, digital media, such as a PDF of a pattern, is one of those things that falls under non-taxable. So I would need to be able to track not only, when I did my sales, I would need to be able to include patterns, non-taxable sales of patterns, in with non-taxable sales of clothing. Now, me being me, I would probably want to know how much income my patterns generated versus how much income my clothing generated. So in my bookkeeping system, I would be able to set up another non-taxable or exempt sales tax item called, non-taxable pattern sales. And I'll share my screen for just a second again, and I'll show you where that would show up. Okay. Now, let's see if I can make this any bigger. Novella, this should be getting a little bigger to make it a little easier to see. And this is about as big as I can go before I start losing everything. But over here on the left, you can see I have my sales tax items. I would have another sales tax category called VT for Vermont, pattern sales, or just patterns exempt. And then I would see that, I had $1,000 in clothing that I sold. And let's say I sold $500 worth of patterns. That would show up here as well on my sales tax liability report. But when I went and looked at my P&L, I would simply have that total, and I'll make this bigger, of merchandise sales. And now this would be $4,125. Okay, because that was the total that I sold. Any of your income from, ad revenue, commissions, whatever, that comes down here at the bottom of your P&L. Your P&L, when you look at it, and I know I'm kind of going off track, but everything all rolls into one. Bookkeeping is more than just reporting your income and deductions to the government when it's time to fill out your tax return. There's all these other things that you have to do off those main set of books. So when you look at your P&L, you want to see your income first, and that's the income from the primary purpose of your business. Okay, so I'm selling merchandise, I'm selling finished items, and I'm selling patterns. I want to see that. Down here, what I don't have is a cost of goods, because this was just an example and I kind of blew through it really quick. But down here under your next thing after income would be cost of goods sold, which is how much it cost you to make that money for the quarter. And then you have your expenses. Your expenses are all the things that you pay for in order to make your business run, even if you have no sales. And then way down below all that, you have your other income, which would be your ad revenue, your commissions received, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of like the icing on the cake. Yes, the bottom line number is what you report as income to the IRS when you fill out your tax return. Okay, that's what you want to set money aside for to cover your taxes. But you need to have that structure, and that's what I find lacking in a lot of the Excel spreadsheets, bookkeeping systems. Yes, P&L, it means profit and loss. Sorry, it's the bookkeeper in me. At least I don't call it an income statement, which is what your CPA would call it. And I am quite to the point where, instead of calling that cute little sales tax liability report anything other than what it really is, I don't call it a general ledger, which is what your CPA would call it. Sorry, I still am very much a bookkeeper. So I'm glad that you're here to ask me questions to clear things up. So this is why your bookkeeping system is so important. It is the backbone of all of your financial data, and it's the backbone for any sort of report that you have to complete and submit to the government, whether it's your tax return or something as like your sales and use tax return. Now, Vermont has a very, very simple sales and use tax return. Other states are very complicated. I used to live in Connecticut, and I used to do sales and use tax returns down there. Now, on the front, they still wanted that same basic information. You know, what were your total sales? How much was non-taxable? This leaves the balance subject to tax. You know, was there local taxes? You know, if so, blah, blah, blah. But they had a second page where they wanted you to break down all the different types of revenue for those non-taxable sales. And it was literally an entire page of all different types of things that were non-taxable. For example, there was non-taxable in Connecticut was anything that you sold directly to a Connecticut state organization. Anything that you sold to a religious organization was tax exempt. Anything that you sold for resale was tax exempt. So, for example, Novella, if I sold you an amigurumi and you were going to turn around and sell that through your Etsy shop for me, okay, you would collect and remit the sales tax when you sold that amigurumi. But for me, I'm selling it to you so that you could resell it. That would be a non-taxable sale for me in Connecticut. Connecticut also had let's see, they had sale of clothing. Clothing was not taxable in Connecticut. So, you know, and they would want all of those specific amounts. And when I was a bookkeeper in Connecticut, I used to have in that lovely little sales tax liability report, all of those sales tax items on that far left. I would have sales tax items for each of the exempt categories that my customers fell into. And it's super easy. When you record your invoice in QuickBooks, you just pick that sales tax item that it applies to, and it will take the total and it will plop that total sale into that appropriate category. So when I went to do the sales and use tax return, it was so easy. Okay. And yes, the initial piece of bookkeeping is the hard stuff. When you set up and design your system, that's the hard part. That's where all the legwork comes. Exactly. And I mean, that's why I started Yarny Book. Okay. I mean, right there, here, you know, that Excel spreadsheet. Like I said, the lady that designed this, she's super smart. I really respect her. But when it came to this spreadsheet, she did some major boo-boos. And she's giving this away for free. And people are using it. And because they don't realize, they're just taking those numbers and going with them. you know? So it's really quite difficult. So, any questions? Novella, I know you always have questions. Oh, I've put her on the spot now. She's laughing. You can always hit me up in the group if you want. I know it's not fair to do it live here on Facebook and YouTube. Um, that's the gist of how to fill out a sales and use tax return, because those initial categories um, are pretty standard on just about every sales and use tax return. My next design a bookkeeping system for your handmade business course opening is probably going to be this later this fall, probably end of October, beginning of November. And the only reason I'm really hesitant about committing to a date is my husband's going in for surgery on his shoulder the end of August, and he has a 4-month recuperation time. So I have no idea how recuperation for him is going to be. And I don't want to, I really can't make a commitment um, until I know what that's all about. So I will keep you updated. The group will be probably the first people to know, the Facebook group. It's just, I'm going to be running the software business. I'm going to be doing all the chores that he normally does here in the fall, taking down the blueberry fence, putting up the snow fence, getting the house buttoned up for winter, because I don't know how much he's going to be able to use that right arm. And like me, he's right-handed. So that's the hand that he has all of his strength in. But that's kind of neither here nor there, but it's just, I just want you to know I have a really good reason. Yeah, exactly. Ben has ripped, torn, frayed ligaments, muscle. He has some bursitis and he has arthritis. It took a good 4 months. We also have about 2 cords of wood coming. And that needs to be stacked inside. And I have a garden that I'm going to be canning here very, very soon. So to say that I'm going to have any time to dedicate to being able to keep track of all the things going on in a class, and keep on top of all the things going on in the course system, I'm not going to lie to anybody. I'm just not going to be able to do it. So I will keep everybody posted. And actually, like I said, the Facebook group, you folks will be the first ones to know about it. General public will be probably last. People on my newsletter list, they will know within 2 or 3 days of my posting the announcement in the Facebook group. So with that, because I don't want to make any of these videos too long, they're really kind of designed to be kind of little short bursts of bookkeeping overwhelm. I will end today's Talk About It Tuesday, and I'll see what I can come up with for next week. And if you're a member of my group on Facebook, and I will post the link in the comments, or I'll edit the listing on YouTube, and I'll post a link to the Facebook group. Feel free to go in there. I have a tagged announcement where you guys ask me questions. I I I wish I could get inside your head and know exactly what you all wanted to know, but I just can't. And things that I might take for granted that everybody would know, you might not know. So I'm just going to say there's absolutely no such thing as a stupid question. So have a lovely week, everybody, and I'm going to sign off for now. Novella, thanks for joining. Thanks for catching me on that P&L, or profit and loss, and have a great week. And we'll see you soon. Bye.